Greetings and salutations. Thank you for lending an ear to The Voice of the Times for Thursday, December 2, 2021. For today's editorial, the road to hell is paved with face shields. We are disappointed, but perhaps should not be surprised that one of the very first suggested responses by government officials to the potential threat of the new Omicron variant of the coronavirus is that the mandatory use of face shields should be reimposed. This universally detested and ineffective measure, used by no other country in the world, has never been an appropriate answer to the risk of coronavirus transmission, and it certainly is not now. In the past several days, a number of officials, including National Task Force Against COVID-19 Chief Implementer and Vaccine Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr., Health Secretary Francisco Duque III, and Interior Secretary Eduardo Año were all quick to call for a return of the face shield mandate, while offering only vague hints about how they otherwise intended to address the Omicron threat. For the nth time, these supposed authorities offered references to unspecified experts and studies that suggest face shields might be an added layer of protection, with Secretary Galvez even going so far as to state that some at the World Health Organization have that opinion. The WHO offered a diplomatic rebuttal of Galvez's attempt to suggest that the organization agrees with the government's unique fascination with face shields. During the government's regular Laging Handa briefing on Tuesday, Dr. Rabindra Abiasinghe, the WHO representative to the Philippines, explained that the virus is airborne, transferred via close contact transmission. What is important is observing social distancing, wearing face masks, and hygiene. As long as these minimum public health protocols are complied with and we ensure that people do not congregate in closed settings, face shields at this point are not mandatory because we are still looking at and understanding the transmission dynamics of the Omicron variant. Dr. Abiasinghe added that the best measures are risk-based because people understand and more readily comply with them, implying that face shields are not a risk-based measure. There is significant discontent on the mandatory use of face shields, so it is better to get compliance when it is risk-based, he said. We fully agree with Dr. Abiasinghe's assessment. Unless the government can show clear evidence that the use of face shields has been studied and found to be clearly effective in stopping or slowing the spread of the coronavirus, in which case the WHO would recommend their use worldwide. It should drop this counterprotective nonsense once and for all and concentrate on its efforts on measures that have proven effectiveness. The solution to overcoming the threat of Omicron or any other form of the coronavirus that might appear has two parts. The part that is within the government's power to implement is just what Dr. Abiasinghe said: consistently enforce the compliance with the basic health protocols of face masks, social distancing, and practicing proper hygiene. This might also involve reimposing some limits on the movements of unvaccinated people or reductions in capacities of certain businesses and public places. While these protocols are being observed, the government must improve and accelerate its efforts to inoculate people in regions that have so far been overlooked by the vaccination campaign. Some productive effort was directed to doing that with a 3-day mass vaccination drive earlier this week, but 3 days is not adequate. That effort must be sustained until everyone eligible for a vaccine is covered. That is critical because it is the inequity of vaccine distribution around the world that has allowed the coronavirus to mutate into potentially more dangerous forms in the first place. In Africa, where Omicron was first detected, vaccination rates average about 6% compared with about 40% here, and 60% or more in most developed countries. The issue of vaccine inequity has been recognized ever since the coronavirus vaccines first became available, but has gotten little more than lip service. The fact that we are facing what may be another dangerous wave of the already 2-year-old pandemic is the entirely predictable result of that inaction. Those countries who have until now ignored their moral and logical responsibility to do something about it must be compelled to do so. And that's the editorial for Thursday, December 2, 2021. For more news and information, get a copy of the Manila Times on print, subscribe to its digital edition, or log on to www.manilatimes.net. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, and listen to the Voice of the Times.